Good morning, everyone. Bill Droege with Turnkey Technologies, and just want to talk a little bit about demand planning and the planning calculations that are done in Dynamics 365 Business Central. So the two things going on. One is planning, which says, okay, I've got a certain amount of inventory I need to maintain, and I've got orders to fulfill and things like that. So I need to execute. So part of this would be planning and execution. We'll talk about planning worksheets, how it'll take a look at what's going on in your organization in terms of orders and requirements, maybe production orders or sales orders, and how you fulfill them if you need product. It'll respond to the planning capability where you might have a min-max capability running on your inventory, or you may have just reorder to a standard level or a standard reorder point type scenario. We'll talk a little bit about some of those criteria down at the item level. But the base for the planning routine is take a look at where you're at in terms of your inventory, what your requirements are, either in your forecasting requirements, and then go to react to that. So suggest that you need to buy or maybe transfer if you're in a multi-warehouse scenario in your organization, or suggest that you might kick off some production orders to fulfill requirements for finished goods. So we'll talk about each of those as we go through. Kind of a deep uh, subject here this morning, but going to try to go through it and hit the major points of it for sure. So on each item card, I'll quickly show you an item card. And this is where we can set up some of the standards. So to be really focused in terms of a reaction and to a standard level of inventory that suggests, you'll take care of your sales from that level, we can set up items to go, from a reordering policy to use a min-max, to use a standard reorder point, to respond at a reorder point level to order up to a max. So there's a couple of capabilities, various options. I'll go into a live item here in a second to do that. Lead time, safety stocks, all the kind of the parameters and the components of the algorithm to order up, if you will, to a particular level. So this is unique stuff that can be done by at the item card level. Again, the demand is tracked at a period level, so that could be a fiscal period, that could be a monthly, could be a weekly, could be a daily. Then you've got the location capability. So those of you that might have multiple stocking locations or production facilities, so we would track those levels at that location level. In that scenario, in a multi-location scenario, you may have the opportunity to do transfers then to do replenishment. If you had a central distribution center type scenario, you'd be able to allocate from transfers as well. And then there's also sales by the item components. So if you're a finished good item, it's going to take a look down into the components to say, hey, if I have a sales level required here, I need the components to support that, to be able to build those items to meet that requirement. So again, just a quick look here at that there's multi-location capability inside of Business Central. These are just some examples: East, West, Main. Maybe have your own third-party logistics, 3PL warehouse, that type of thing. So you can identify your inventories there, requirements there, and the system will respond to those as you do it. If you don't, you can just have a single location and it will respond there. The big thing about the demand planning, and I would think the first question you would have is, how does it project what I need? Is it based on classic historic forecasting, right? What happened in the past to predict what's going to happen in the future? Well, yeah, it does. And basically, that all comes from the item sales ledger, the item ledger entries. So we're tracking every item, every location that you have, specifically the ins and outs, the transfers, the sales, the purchases. Primarily, we're focused on the sales and credits to understand what level of inventory you need to maintain, to track and see how we can get the forecast tuned to what you're doing in your actual sales. Now, on top of the planning, we'll also have a capability to do a forecast. So let me go in and show you what really operationally what this looks like. I'm going to go into my live demo now and just give you a quick look. I've got some demo data here that may or may not be as deep as we need, but one of the things we'll do is we'll go to our planning worksheet. And this is basically where everything, your daily planning will be done daily, weekly, however often you want to run it. So what happens here is we can go ahead and process or prepare a plan, a reorder plan, or the regenerative plan as it's called, to pick up the inventory levels that we need. So if I go to say, yeah, I want to run my regenerative plan, first of all, it's asking me, what type of plan do you run? Now, if you have both manufacturing and distribution, MPS is typically distribution, MRP is manufacturing, so we're going to build out items, so we need the supply items or the raw materials, if you will, to build our requirements. I'm going to turn the MRP off for a second to run a supply look here. Then basically, what's our starting date? What's our ending date? How far are we looking out? Right, so I'm going to look out from today out through the first week of June. And then it can start to run its process. Now, the big piece here is this is going to use that ledger entry demand that we've calculated from a forecast, and I'll show you where that's run in a second. And then I can run this down to a level of individual items or search and put a few items out. So I can refresh this to a SKU level. I can do some groupings. I can put more filters on here to get accurately the items that I wanted to take a look at in terms of where my requirements are. So I'll run this and I'll come back and talk about using a forecast. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to go ahead and do that. It's going to go out and grab the items that met that criteria. I got one bad item there set up. I got a workstation set up. So I went out and said, okay, I need these items uh, and I need this quantity and I need to do production orders for them. So these items need to get built because I've got some demand for them. And it'll pull that out and then we can execute that. It'll send you some attention. I think I have a date issue probably on this one. Yeah, that order is a little older and I'm running it for the current period, but I still need to take care of that. So it sees that I did the MPS order. It says that, that's what it came back with. So it's off to take care of that. So the other piece of this is then to impact potentially with a forecast. So the system runs a forecast using the artificial intelligence in Azure. So it'll take that ledger history and go out and try to normalize that and look at the usage that you have. If I look at a particular item, and I'm going to run a forecast on my chair here. Let's try this guy. And what we can do is we can do a sales forecast, and it'll go out and run that and take a look at that item, and it'll recalculate its usage and predict for me where that thing's going to be based on its past usage. So this past usage has been around 10, so it kind of flattened it out. So that's what the history's telling me right now. I haven't done anything to adjust that. And that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. I've ordered to that 10 to support the 10 that it's selling. So when you have a valid amount of history, a few months, more than I think 10 or 12 transactions, it'll go ahead and try to plane this out for you. And again, based on that forecast, it'll go out and predict if you're doing monthly, weekly forecast, how it's running through there. The other part of that then is to actually impact that forecast. So on that piece, what we can do is go out and create a demand forecast. Or basically, and I can have different versions of that. I've got a weekly setup. Could do a monthly. I could do the daily. I could have different looks in that. So right now I'm running the weekly one. And what I've done then, and you see the weeks are just the number of the week in the year. I've set some information in there that I say, okay, maybe I don't have the history to support this, but I know something about where I'm going in the future in terms of orders. I don't have the orders yet either. Had I had the orders, they would respond. The system would respond. But maybe I'm anticipating. I've been talking to some customers and they're giving me some ideas about, hey, they're going to have some volumes maybe larger than in the past coming up in the next few weeks. So I want to impact my replenishment with the forecast. So my Mexico swivel chair that I was looking at, I planned that out for about 6 units per week over the next few weeks. So now if I want to come back to do my planning, I can impact that with the forecast. So again, I'm going to do my planning actually. And I'm gonna run my planning worksheet, and I'm gonna actually just take these guys out for a second, just delete them. So I haven't done anything with these. I can just, rework this as many times as I want. Maybe I feel like something's low. I want to adjust that again. Maybe I have some view of what's going on in the next few weeks, and I want to impact that with a forecast. So I go out and run my plan now, same period, but now I say pull in my weekly forecast. And now I update this, and we're going to see it go out, and it's going to impact by some of these other items that I've had in the forecast. I still have one bad item in there, but I'm not going to worry about it. So now you see quite a few more items are coming in. I'm starting to pick up the information that I had there. Looks like I had a few items come in here that I've got some build out on. I need to stock up for because I need to bring this material in. There's some other items here I need to add to my production side because I've impacted, again, the forecast there to suggest I'm going to have those in the coming weeks. So you can do historic forecast, run the sales forecast, have the system plan that. You can impact the system, the planning, which is the execution, by pulling in that forecast. And then also the impact on individual items will be based on their planning requirements. So again, on my individual item, on the planning tab, I can identify, I have a reorder point at 50. When I get to 50, I want to order back up. Again, the reorder policies or the real criteria here, I have a fixed reorder quantity. I just want to maintain fixed level. When I hit that level, I reorder back up. Do the min-max scenario, which is kind of a standard there that we can impact and identify, I want to hit, again, reorder point, order to max. I can go order to order if you don't really want to stock inventory on certain items, maybe slower mover items, more of your supply level items. Then you can just reorder as you get orders. And then lot for lot is similar, same thing, but you'll buy at certain lot levels. But again, there you can impact min-max. And also, again, you'll have lead time safety stock related to your vendors. So again, you can set that lead time safety stock. System will start to calculate that. And again, when you set up an item, you identify a primary vendor to do that. So the big thing here is to understand how we're pulling the data. I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint here for a second. And again, what we started with was the idea of generating a planning worksheet. And then from there, going into the worksheet, identifying, we want to run for this date range. Do we want to do MPS or MRP, again, based on, or both, actually. You can run both of those. You can run a combination. You've got some supply items, and you may have some production items or manufactured items, finished goods that you produce, and then you want to calculate what your requirements are for your raw materials. Again, we can do the straight planning from the straight demand that's in the system, again, based on the ledger card history of the individual items, or we can impact that with a forecast. So we may know, hey, we've got a difference. I would think the forecast could be very important for you today with what's going on over the last few months. There may be obviously some people have taken some dips in their normal sales volumes for what's going on, and or vice versa. Maybe now you're responding to more maybe e-commerce sales, that type of thing, and you want to kind of project where that's been from whatever history now that you've accumulated over the last month or so. So you could take a forecast and project out, my sales are up, or they're down, and I see them going back up, so don't kind of disqualify the last period. So in the forecast, you go in for the last few periods and kind of normalize them. Maybe you were off 60, 80%, and you want to normalize those by putting in a forecast to overstep those or overlay those last couple of months if they were really non-standard. So again, the MPS side for the distribution side, the MRP side, we can calculate the net change plan, and then I was running the calculate regenerative plan, which is recalculate the whole planning process using whatever demand that we've got, natural or forecasted, to run through that and calculate my requirements. Again, the unit sales is by item, by period, by location, and then also on your from your finished goods, it'll look into the components to calculate that. And again, the forecast is a capability for you to um, overlay or impact the demand, the standard demand, or the history, if you will, by some knowledge you have of where the levels, your sales levels or requirements are going to go. So you can impact that again, maybe after a slow March, April, May, you want to impact that out and basically say, no, I didn't have these normal numbers, but I want to normalize that now to go forward and use this forecast until to get more normalized periods in your demand. So then we can generate this using the worksheet, using the forecast, and then these are the items that'll come through. And then basically it'll bring your attention to this if there's a date issue, if there's some kind of exception, but it'll tell you these are the items that need to be replenished or produced to fulfill your sales. And then it'll look actually at each line item as you go through it to show you what are the actual planning requirements that are set at the line level. What is it responding to in terms of this, max order or reorder point scenarios. And then that is kind of the round picture. The only other thing I did want to make mention is in my demo here to show you the forecasting piece again. So it will try to take the forecast and give you more of a graphic look at that. And then there's also reporting that you can dump out to get the forecast information off the item ledger capability. So again, the item ledger is where the actual demand exists and what would use to be normally calculating where you're going on the transactions. And this is what the forecast will use to try to calculate where you're going in the future. Just gonna sort this from oldest to newest kind of scenario so you see the most recent history. And then all these sales transactions will become part of that. And again, it can calculate the requirements per location.